Welcome, welcome, everybody. This is the Cyphaden Chat. I'm your host, Tayamu Denko. I got my homie Rambunctious with me,
Peace,
and
peace, peace,
tonight,
peace.
special guest, CEO, Strange Famous Records, Epic Beardman, Sage Francis in the building. What's going on,
Pew pew pew
Sage?
pew. Chilling. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man, of course, man. You just got off a crazy stretch tour with Atmosphere and Mr. Dibbs. I want to start right out with that. Can you just tell me uh, a standout moment, something that stands out from that recent tour?
Yeah, there was a lot of standout moments. I just got done talking with Slug, explaining to him that this week I hope to do a huge write-up of everything that stands out to me because like there was people on this tour who hadn't seen me for 20 years, and that was actually a very common comment at the merch booth tables like, "Man, I saw you 20 years ago. Man, I saw you 20 years ago at this and that." And I'm just like, or they'll tell me stories about stuff I don't remember at all. And I want to like, I had good revelations on this tour. I want to mark it down. I want to remember it. Because it happens so fast and it's a blur. And while I'm in it, it feels like it's forever. And I know it's not. And that's how I lose a lot of memories. That's just how a lot of things just fly out my brain's window, you know? So, I mean, one standout moment is the collective of everyone saying they didn't see me like the last time they saw me was 20 years ago. And me thinking like, okay, how do I respond to that? Like, thanks for not checking me out for 20 years. Um, you know, like what the fuck am I supposed to say? I would just would be like, ah, yeah, cool, cool. But the first show and the last show, this tour was bookended by some tense moments with audience members. So the first show
Oh
was
boy,
in Bozeman, Montana, and this is the first time I performed with.
sounds about right.
Yeah, and you know what? It was one of the best shows of the tour. I went. The venue was so cool, so big. The sound system was incredible. The crowd was incredible, which you don't expect. You know, if you don't know anything about Montana or Bozeman, it kind of just sounds like bumfuck nowhere. But it was really um, eye-opening. I mean, I've always had good crowds in Montana, but that one it really stuck out. But after my set, I was in the merch area, and an older, I mean, not an old guy, he's like my age probably. He was like, "Hey, you said a lot of stuff up there." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, there's kids in the crowd." And I said, "Yeah." And he kind of posted it up in a weird way, like maybe he was a disappointed dad, or like he didn't want his kids hearing certain stuff. And I said, I didn't know I was supposed to like Disneyfy my set. I was not given that heads up. I'm doing, like, what do you really want me to do? It just like he seemed like he wanted to fight for a second, and Mr. Dibbs was right next to me, and he noticed it too. He was like, "Oh,
And this is
so
the first. Wait, this is the first show of the tour.
yeah, first show."
Oh, this is awesome. Yeah,
Yeah, so I was like, "All right, like we're back in it, okay." Um, but yeah, I kind of like showed him. I think I probably made a face. I was like, "What the fuck you want to do about it?" Like, what? I don't even know what's wrong about what I did or said. It could have been a variety of things, like me screaming out "Free Palestine" every show. I see like maybe some feathers could have gotten ruffled if people aren't fully aware of what has been going on for the past 80 years. But
right.
but yeah, so that happened then. And then on the last show, which was in Sayreville, New Jersey, after I did the Free Palestine thing, this like large gentleman um went into the merch area, which was separate from the show, the space where we were performing, and he was like, "Yo, fuck this guy, he fucking hates America, I'm gonna fuck him up, blah blah blah." So all the security and the people selling merch were like, "Oh, like we have to get security." So the whole show then after that was like, what's going to happen with this guy? Like they didn't kick him out. He stuck around to the end, and then Atmosphere brought me up for the freestyle at the very end of their set. And Dibbs pointed out who he was to me, and I kind of addressed it in the freestyle. And I said something like, I like actually not trying to be instigatory because that's what Dibbs wanted. He really wanted to see some, he wanted things to pop off on the last show of the tour.
You
I
want
thought that would have been a horrible way to end the tour because it was so successful and good.
yeah.
Um, but I was like, I mentioned something about how because I'm pro-Palestinian, um, that doesn't mean I'm anti-American, and I try to explain a little bit in the freestyle. It's not like I had a lot of time, and I pointed at him, and he kind of just had like a very lost look on his face, and nothing happened. But those were two tense moments of the tour where it seemed like a fight was going to happen, and thankfully it didn't.
Huh.
Yeah,
Wow.
man. That is crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah.
And I saw one of your late clips from the tour where you basically didn't get sick until the very end of the tour. How do you manage to do that on a big scale tour like that? Because I mean, I independently tour, I don't really contact with man, I mean, hand to hand merch, I guess that happens, but like how do you not get not get sick on a large scale tour like that?
Not,
Like,
not, oh, not get physically sick.
yeah.
Yeah, well, partly, I've always been very careful not to touch people's hands. Um, People take offense to that sometimes. Actually, every show, someone would take offense to it because they'd come up and be like, I just want to shake your hand. And they stick it out and they hold it. And I like insist they do the fist bump. And they roll their eyes like, oh, okay, man, okay. Oh, geez. But the other thing is I travel alone. I drive alone. So when you travel with others in a contained space, it's much more likely that you're going to get sick.
Yeah.
So that helped me a lot. And I slept all alone in the hotel rooms.
mm,
Yeah, I don't know. I was expecting to get sick the whole way because I did have a lot of merch interactions. There was almost every show, it was like nonstop me dealing with people at the merch booth. And, I easily could have gotten sick that way with them talking in my face. But I didn't. It's just like maybe like Brother Ali told me that it's common for him not to get sick on a tour until the very end of it, and it's like your body knows like to fight it off until you're almost home, and then it
Yeah.
just all pops out.
Plus the fatigue.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and the fatigue too.
Yeah.
That can definitely lend to sickness.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I was lucky. I mean, I did the drives alone, so I had a lot of time to rest my voice, collect my thoughts, not have to deal with any tour drama. There's no drama except when you're with somebody all the time. Um, and it was a kind of a perfect storm for me. It's like not many people could have really rocked it the way that I did. In fact, I dare say I don't think anyone I know could ever do what I did. But I like to do it that way because the dynamic of being in a crowd full of like 1,000 people and dealing with so many people all at once, it really helps me to have a vacuum after that of no interactions and
mhm.
Mm.
just me dealing with me, and that's good for me.
Mm.
I
Interesting.
feel that. Speaking of uh having time to rest your voice, I remember seeing uh pretty much I think there was a bunch of times I saw where RA the Rugged Man says he does like vocal coaching before tours. Do you do stuff like that to save your voice at an older age? Because I have issues, and I started going to this. There's this throat coat tea I've been doing, and then I do these vocal drops with slippery elm. So that's kind of my direction that I go with it. But like what's your methods?
Yeah, I used to. I've tried it all. I frequently lost my voice ever since I started performing shows with my band in like 98, 99. And I would overexert myself. I would do a lot of screaming. I didn't know how to use monitors properly. So I just didn't, I had to learn the hard way. And I did every single hard way I learned. And in 2004 on the Fuck Clear Channel tour, I lost my voice completely. And this was a big tour. And I had to go to a throat doctor while I was on the tour. And they told me, I had to stop the tour and go home and rest my voice for 2 weeks, or I was going to lose my voice forever.
Oh
And
shit.
I was like, oh, okay. And then I took a day off and then finished the tour, obviously, because it was like I got a lot of people. I have a staff. I got like I booked this tour. This is my livelihood. I'm gonna do the tour.
Yeah.
But when the tour was over, I went. I got put on prednisone. I was voluntarily mute for 2 weeks
Mm,
because I had a nodule and polyps on my throat.
Oh
And they were saying like most likely I'd have to have surgery on the nodule, and when you do that, there's a great risk of your voice changing, which I wouldn't care. I've never liked my voice particularly, but I'm not really psyched about surgeries, especially when I didn't have health care.
yeah.
So yeah, I took it very seriously. I stayed quiet, drank water, and I learned over time the best thing for your throat is not tea, it's not honey, it's room temperature water.
mm,
That's it.
Uh,
I mean, anything else, you're just messing with your vocal cords. And when I rap now, I was expecting to lose my voice on this tour, and so I purchased in-ear monitors for like $1,000 before the tour started, and they didn't arrive in time.
oh
So I was
shit.
in Montana, and I did the Montana show, and like I said, the venue was great, the sound was great, and I had no voice fatigue. And then and I could have had the in-ear monitor sent to me somewhere on the tour, but I was like, you know what? Let me see this through. I'm only doing a 45-minute set. I get to rest my voice a lot after the show. I think I can
Right.
do this. And I did. I was like, with good use of monitors and good sound monitors, me
Yeah.
always having my voice above the beat, so I'm not fighting with the beat to hear
Uh,
myself. Yeah, I never lost my voice. I didn't even come close to losing my voice, which is the first time in my whole life. I didn't do any vocals exercises. I didn't even rehearse for this tour. I didn't even rehearse. I didn't
uh,
rehearse my set. And I hadn't,
that's
I hadn't gone hard like this in forever. So I kind of was like throwing caution to the wind and being like, if I got it, I got it. If I don't, I don't. But I do got it. So fuck it.
yeah. I love that.
that's dope, man. So now that you know you got it still, are you planning on doing any more tours sooner than later?
Not sooner. I will. This one was so good for me. It put me in touch, reconnected me with fans. Some diehard fans of mine, but some fans who kind of like were fans back in the day and kind of stopped following me. And but they always go to like Atmosphere tours relentlessly and always has. So he's maintained that fan base and grown it to a wide scale, which is very impressive. Um, I don't think I want to headline my own tour. Um, Again, the sweet spot for me was being an opener and not being responsible for everybody, not having to organize everything, just worrying about myself. So thankfully, it looks like we're going to redo this tour,
Mm,
playing different cities
Right.
next year at the same time. So between now and then, I will play certain shows. I got a festival in California called the Thought Fest in April. I'm doing a
oh,
show in
dope.
Rhode Island. um, I'll do stuff in the summer, but mainly I got to just get my stuff straight over here, record more material, get a new album out by the end of the year. I'd love to do my own podcast. That's been in the plans for 5 years. Um, Doing book stuff. I'm doing
Would that be a
obviously what's
would
that?
that I'm sorry, would that be a hip hop podcast or like something different or
Not really. I mean, probably it's very hip hop leaning because whoever I talk to, I'll probably bring all my friends on and stuff
sure,
like that.
sure, sure, yeah, yeah,
But mainly I'm thinking about just talking about life stuff to whoever.
sure,
And
yeah,
um but yeah, there's a lot for me to figure out before I can do that. Just having a space and time in order to set it up and get it going. I know that
yeah,
takes effort, right?
yeah,
So but yeah, that's in the plans and running the label still. We got several projects, like crazy projects that are lined up for this year. That's going to take a lot of time and energy and attention. So my greatest obstacle is time management at this point and doing what's right for me because obviously I need to cater to my own career, which I put on hold for several years, starting with Epic Beard Men. Um, and then focusing on other label stuff and family stuff. Family took over once, I got
Okay.
married and raising kids and had a son during the pandemic. That
Okay.
takes a lot of your attention
Oh
and
yeah.
time. So, but now that they're all in school and oh yeah, I think I can do it. I think I'll be able
How,
to like, get back in the work saddle real for real for real.
how has kids changed the creative inspiration? I know it does from from personal experience, but
Yeah,
it seems a little later in life for you. I mean, I don't know.
it is. Yeah, yeah. I had my
So I mean,
first child at 43.
okay,
So,
yeah. So I mean,
um,
how's that changed? Has
I
it?
don't know, I don't know how it's changed I don't know how it's changed in any other ways than me being more careful of um certain topics and what I talk about and what may for almost forever, like starting with
Sure.
personal journals and even before that. I like to speak in a way that was totally free, no matter if it offended or hurt somebody, even if it was in my own family.
Mhm.
Because that to me was the purest way to go about my art. Now I have to be more cognizant of who else can be affected by what I say and how they view me as a dad as a
Okay.
husband. But I mean, my wife is ride or die, so it doesn't. I'm not like concerned about that. But for my son and for the kids, and I'm also at an age where I think about things differently, and that's how I have to
Mhm.
approach my music.
Right.
And I'm sure people will notice a difference, but for the most part, my creative process doesn't feel any different.
Right.
I still it still comes out of me the same way. I just may edit in a different way.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Can you talk about some of those upcoming projects on Strange Famous label?
Yeah, so we got this month we should be releasing an album by a guy named Orpheus, who not many people know, but I've worked with him a lot. He's done a lot of video work for us, but he's a great producer on top of many things. So he put together a ton of beats and he showed me them. I was like, dag, I was like, these are all dope. And he's like, yeah, well, and he's like, I got soul on a song, I got Logic on a song, I got what's his name? So many people. There's a ton of like, oh, Buck 65, Slug, me, we're all on one song. I'm on a song with Blueprint and Rob Sonic. But
Okay.
yeah, it's like, oh, Elda Sensei is on it. So it's all these great features, and
Yeah. That's
like
a
he just
lineup.
provides the beats. We've done a lot of projects like that because the producer Alexander Brown released an album called Glow Kid that I helped put together with him because I organized all the MCs to get on it. So it's very much in that spirit where just a lot of different MCs coming together, some who never worked together before, and seeing how it goes, and it went really well. So we're working on that. There's a group project called Baldwin Brothers, which will be the Meter Maids, Jesse the Tree, and Mopes. Now, Mopes has been producing a ton of stuff for SFR artists. He used to go by the name Prolific, so he just dropped an EP.
Oh, I know Prolific.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. He's like, yo,
Yeah.
when the when the pandemic happened, he switched his whole shit up, and he was like, hit me up. He was like, yo, I'm thinking about going by a new name, Mopes. I was like, well, I mean, you're old enough to make your own decisions. I would vote against that because you built up your name and everyone, like your followers, know that name. So still to this day, people don't know he's released a lot of music since 2020 under the name Mopes.
Hmm.
So I recommend people check out his Bandcamp. We got his stuff on strangefamous.com, but he's an ill producer. He's always been an ill rapper, but his production has just raised by 100 notches. Um, so I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff with him. He's probably going to produce a full project for me. Um,
That's
That's
yeah.
dope.
So that project is being worked on. There's a project by this guy, Old Boy Rhymes, who we released his album last year called The Sane Asylum. No one knows this guy. No one knew this
wait.
guy.
Somebody might have sent me some music. But does he play guitar and
Nah.
has like no and okay Okay, no, never mind.
Keep
Different
going though.
person.
I like
Sorry,
guys who
different
play
person.
guitar. That's all right.
Well, no, this. Well, I don't. I'd have to go find the link. That's why I might be totally wrong. So sorry. Go
That's
ahead.
yeah, it's cool. So no, but he approached me. He's originally from Alaska. He lives in Southeast Asia now. And never released music professionally. And he hit me with these demos. And he had Mr. Liff on it. He had Micah Nine
Oh
on it.
wow. Yeah.
And Zumbi. And I was like, oh, you're doing big things without any access to the public. I was like, let me help you shape this. And he's an incredibly ill MC, ill
Oh,
voice, ill topics. He's lived a crazy life and he puts it all into his rhymes. So right now, his follow-up project, he's working with a guy named Ariano who does the beats and the singing on the project. So I think it's going to be EP, but that'll be released this summer, I believe. Lee Reed from Canada has a project. He's a very political minded MC, he's just a hardcore motherfucker. But yeah, I love his MCing style. So that he's gonna have an album come out on May 1st. And there's a lot of other stuff I haven't mentioned, but there's throughout the year there's gonna be a lot of stuff, and I have to be careful not
Yeah.
to let that take away from what I'm trying to focus on with my own solo project. Because it's just been my pattern for quite some time, and
sure, sure.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, running a label is definitely a lot of hard work. I don't technically run a label, but we have a brand called Cyphaden Music. But I don't really, I don't put out other people's music. We just work as a collective together.
that's the best way to do it. I mean, what is an indie label at this point other than a collective of people who can help each other out, and like show each other their blind spots and help promote. And I mean, we hardly release stuff that goes to stores these days. It's been a lot of
Yeah,
just
Right, right,
digital stuff and merch stuff, and
right.
yeah, but we still have the ability to do physical distribution. It just hasn't made a lot of sense
Okay,
in
yeah.
recent years.
I mean, I've known about Strange Famous Records for a long time. I don't know about since the beginning, since you started it, but I know. I remember rehearing about it when my homie, I think, Dope Knife put out a record through y'all, I
Right.
thought.
Yep.
So yeah, that's the homie. I think it's kind of dope that you have the same outlook that I have as far as rebranding names at a later time in your career, like what you told Prolific. Even though it's dope that he decided to rebrand, he's putting out music on different stuff. But when I got down with Onyx, they wanted me to change my whole name, and I've been rocking with my Denku name for like 25, 30 years, you know what I'm saying? And he wanted
Well,
me to
yeah. Yeah. What was their reasoning for that?
he said it's too hard for people. He, he
Was there a name they wanted you to have to keep or
they didn't they
be?
didn't they didn't suggest a name to me. They were just like, if we're gonna do this real, we want you to change your name or rebrand. And they mentioned like how MF Doom did it, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. And then they're like, well, like, RJ Payne did it. I'm like, yeah, some people do it and it works for some people, but like literally, I've toured with this name. I've put out everything under this name. I still have projects where I say my name in songs. Like,
Yeah.
I
I got to
mean,
say, a lot of artists on Strange Famous aren't totally business minded. It's pure art stuff for them. And his reasoning was enough for me. He just was like, you know what? I came up with the name Prolific when I was 16 years old. I was like, I don't feel
Yeah, I
like the
understand
guy
that.
anymore. It's like, and I said, you know what? Respect. You got
yeah,
you're a whole new person now. You want to have a different name change. I wouldn't do it myself, but yeah, I don't
yeah.
know. I totally see where you're at though. I mean, if that's your branding and that, you've built up that name, that's tough to let go of. That's your legacy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, plus I mean, they didn't really have any suggestions, and I just think they wanted it to be simpler.
I don't know.
Um,
The comedian in me wishes they had suggestions. So now you with it. Like I wish you had a list. You know what I'm saying? I wish you had a list of names right
Yeah.
now.
They didn't
But
just
anyway,
put your name in a name generator and
Fredro had no suggestions for me. He just told me we want you to change it, or in his words, Yo, we want you to change it up, son.
I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I want to take it way back, because obviously I've known about your battle days. Because I used to follow battling back in the day, and I went to multiple scribble jams after your last one is like the one I first went to. I think '02, '03, something like there, and the last one you were in was '01, I believe.
Yeah.
So I was talking to Ram before this, and I was curious because I never knew the answer to this, but why did you never enter as Sage?
Well, that was back when people may have been familiar with Sage Francis, but not know what he looks like,
Mm,
which would have given them more material to battle me with. So
That's smart.
yeah, that's the
yeah,
Because
exact
back then
reason I did that.
you couldn't just go Google and shit. So it's
No,
yeah.
yeah. So it was like,
yeah, there
I
really
like
weren't many pictures out there. There weren't videos out there. It was all audio. So that's why I did it.
that's what's
simply
up, man. Yeah.
that's dope.
I mean, it must have been fun coming up with just characters to battle with. I mean, Super Bowl battle was a big thing. You won that. But I
And
read
that
that,
and that one was I did go by Sage Francis and everyone there
yeah.
knew me. But they didn't know I was a battle rapper. So that was me taking on all the Boston big shots from coming from Rhode Island. And because I would hit up their open mics and do spoken word. So they thought I was a spoken word artist and a radio guy because I had my college radio show where I'd always try to get them like to do interviews on my show, which they never did. They just punked me through and through. And I got to that Super Bowl battle. It was a big deal. So this was before Patriots, the New England Patriots, baby, who suck now. They sucked back then too. So no one cared about the Super Bowl. In Boston, they threw a battle on Super Bowl Sunday every year.
Damn, it was that bad. Huh?
That's how bad it
I
was.
remember them days. I remember them days. But damn.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the only time I ever did it on a large scale and won. And after that, it just was like I didn't really consider myself a battle rapper, and I wasn't ready for Scribble Jam. It just so happened it worked out the way that it did. I still had the chops, but they weren't. I wasn't like really about that.
Huh.
Yeah. Was that your did you go to Scribble early on, or was your first one the one that you went to battle at? That was the
Yeah, the
first one?
first one was the one I won in 2000, and I mean, that was a magical experience. That opened up so many doors, that connected me to so many people. Um, that was an institution, and that was Dibbs's thing. So being able to tour again with Dibbs, and we get to reminisce about this and that, and even cats from Scribble Jam are coming out to the shows, and it was a trip. It was like seeing a face
Yeah.
I hadn't seen and recognizing them right away. Like that was
Yeah.
what 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And
like
and the
it's like a club almost like that. You guys are
and
all
the
in.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the scribble, is that what stemmed you to get down with Anticon then?
I was already familiar with Anticon, and they were New England based at first because
Yeah.
Soul, Alias, DJ Mayo, and others were living in Maine. And um, like I mentioned, I had a college radio show that became pretty popular, partly because I talked so much trash on it. And because I'm in Southern Rhode Island, I don't expect anyone to really know I'm talking about them. I'm talking into the void as far as I'm concerned. And then next thing I know, like this guy, that guy wants to come kick my ass because I said some shit that wasn't very respectful.
Yeah.
And
Did you ever actually get any visits? Like, did you ever
oh
actually have
yeah,
a
oh
problem?
yeah, people have stormed the studio.
Can
People
you tell?
stormed
Can
the
you tell
studio.
any of those stories,
Yeah.
or have you told them too much, or you know?
No, I mean, there was one time,
I mean,
man.
we got plenty of time. You can tell. 6.
I don't. I got about one more half hour, but
I'm messing around, man. I'm playing.
my trick was that as soon as someone stepped in, I would turn on the microphone. So if you even if we were mid song or whatever, I turn the microphone on and be like, we can handle it like this. But
Yeah.
there was no fights, but there was threats of fights, and there's definitely a lot of like upset people. But one of them being because I would talk about how I was the illest MC in New England, and Soul caught wind of that, and he was like, "Man, I'm the dopest white boy in New England, you know, or whatever." It's like, so they came down some point with their crew just to really kind of sniff around and see what was what. And so it was him, Alias, rest in peace, obviously,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, DJ Mayo, and a couple others. And they came on. One of them freestyled. We talked records. I was working with Joe Beats at the time, so they hipped him to the record game, how to like get the samples he wanted to get, and blah blah blah. And we kind of I mean, it started off contentious, but we ended up being homies after that and working on music. And then they moved to California, which is where the Anticon everyone knows now, that's where that started to bubble up when they moved to the Bay Area.
Yeah.
So I knew them when I went to Scribble Jam, but it wasn't until I won Scribble Jam that Anticon was interested in doing a record with me. And not all of them cared to do that. They didn't really want to deal with I was more boom bap. I had a more of a fundamental style than what Anticon was doing. They were really pushing the boundaries. But I
Hmm.
think concept wise and poetic wise, like the way I write things and paint pictures, it kind of fit the bill. But I was more, I mean, people took to me more just because it was more of a familiar style, you know, when my record came out. So Personal Journals was the highest selling record on Anticon right off the bat, and that was that was in 2000, late 2001, early 2002, and everything had just culminated and come to a head. It was like I had won the battles, I won the poetry slams, I got the mixtapes selling like crazy. Napster is on fire with Makeshift Patriot, so my name just was like hitting everywhere in the magazines, and then the fucking solo album finally is in stores. People gobbled it up. And that is a story that almost no one can tell because it was a very special time in internet history and
Mhm.
independent music history where you could pull that off without
Mhm.
any like big corporations behind
Hmm.
you,
Mhm.
making sure that you're like in everyone's face, even if you don't
Yeah,
deserve it.
yeah.
Yeah. Ram, you got something?
No, no, go ahead. No, I was just really just
Uh,
listening. Sorry.
I was actually wondering. You had mentioned Joe Beats, part of nonprofits with you, and then
Yes.
you also had Epic Beardman with B Dolan. Was there any other side groups that never built to fruition for you over the years?
The band I started with was called AOI, which is Artificial Intelligence.
Mm.
Years later, De La Soul came out with the Intelligence albums, but this was before that. So this is how I first started getting my performance chops, performing on actual stages, not just battling and doing open mics. We were recording a full album. We did record a full album, but it wasn't good enough to release. I used parts of it on my mixtapes. But then in 2000, we started recording some really incredible stuff. Unfortunately, that was when everyone was graduating from college and starting to go their own way with their careers or moving out of state. And I was touring relentlessly starting then. So we had started some very, very good recordings that we just never finished. And a couple months ago, I had a dinner with all of them, or not all of them, but some of the members of that band where we were talking about it all. And they were reminding me of like all the stuff we were
Cool.
doing right up toward the end. And I was like, damn, man, I kind of like messed up by not recognizing how incredible that situation was and how much talent I had around me because they were all incredible musicians playing a variety of instruments. And we had a studio and so much could have been done, but I was a knucklehead rapper and I was like, I need beats. I don't need all this fucking jazz music. I need beats. Like I want a boom bap beat. I want sample drums.
Right.
Of course, now all these years later, having worked with several outfits and recorded with several different types of music or musicians, now I understand. And now, like, if I could relive that, I really would have made more of it than I
That's
did.
funny. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Yeah, rocking with a band is definitely a dope thing. I've never got to really fuck with. I mean, I've done some shows with live bands, but that's a whole different experience for sure.
Yeah, I personally don't enjoy performing with a live band, and that will always push my voice, having loud instruments on stage. I don't prefer that. I don't prefer anybody to be on stage when I'm performing. I don't want a DJ. I don't want a hype man. I don't want a dancer. I want nothing but me because I'm very
Interesting.
territorial.
Huh.
I
Interesting.
dig that.
Yeah, it's my
I feel it.
world that I'm living in. This is my comfort zone. This is my
Sure.
safe space. I don't want any surprises from anybody else around me. I know what I'm doing and I'm creating this world for the people who are in front of me and they get to see me act in like or perform in my bubble that I prefer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. In a state of
but
mind and everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
obviously there are things I can't do by myself that I can do with a live band, and I love those moments. I mean, I've played with seven-piece bands on tours. I've played with three-piece bands on tours. I've played with two-piece bands, and each one provides something very special and unique to it. But my preference will always be a solo performer with nothing else happening.
I feel that.
So
I mean that probably stems back from I saw your early influences, Run DMC, Public Enemy, way back in the day. That probably stems from that, like the true MC in you wants to just do your own thing, right?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, those shows weren't very enthralling. Public Enemy was. Run DMC and EPMD, and even DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, and that was my first concert. I just was,
that's dope.
yeah, I was just so excited to be witnessing
Yeah.
what only existed on my cassette tape as
What was
far as
that
art
about?
goes.
88? 88,
Yeah,
89?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. So, I mean, that concert blew my mind, but there was I don't know, man. Maybe me having to do so many open mics and spoken word performances, because I didn't have instrumentals and I didn't have music to rock over. Maybe that is what instilled in me this like confidence that I can do it all on my own. But
Sure.
also the symbology of it, I think is important. I want people to understand that you don't need a lot of people to do what you want to do. Like you don't
Right.
have to be part of a system. You like that's why I sell my own merch. Like that's
Right.
I want them to see me doing my stuff.
Right.
And it's not like I'm just chilling while I make other people do a bunch of stuff for me, or I'm always relying like I can't do it unless this guy does something. No, you can do it yourself.
Mm,
That's dope. That's what's up.
feel that, man. I want to go a whole different direction, and uh, I didn't know this at all that you went to South Africa, worked with a solution to the AIDS, uh, you know, epidemic and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Like, I didn't know that. So, what
Yeah.
was that experience, and what pushed you to do that?
Okay. Um, this is a crazy story that hasn't fully been told yet, and it needs to be at some point, but I can't do it all here. I'll give you the basics and then your mind can run wild. Um, so I think this was 2011. Um, a director who was doing a documentary about an alternative treatment for HIV positive folks in South Africa. Okay, so I'm lost even talking about it now. There was this machine that supposedly would cure AIDS. They had to be exposed to it for several hours a day. They were doing a documentary on it, and they wanted poets and artists from America and Sweden and different parts of the world to come to South Africa to witness all of this, and to speak for the children. Like you had to like get involved with the families and kind of speak for them to the camera about like what they're experiencing and what you're witnessing.
Oh,
And it was 2 weeks long, the first one I did, and I was so skeptical of what I was witnessing. And I researched like crazy. And I know that people in South Africa are often used as guinea pigs for alternative medicines and for actual pharma products. And then once they find something that is effective, they remove it and they sell it. And then like these people don't have access to it. But the worst part is that they're experimented on with drugs with no recourse and no advocates to speak for them. And so then I found myself in that position where I'm like, I'm not here to blow up the tires of your stupid fucking machine. Like I doubt that this is working. I doubt the process. I don't like what I see happening. My heart was breaking left and right anyway. I mean, I came to really love these kids, and I know a lot of them were suffering. Many of the people died from that time when I was there. And but I still stay in touch with the main family that I was connected to. And a lot of these girls have kids of their own now. And they were only like 9 years old when I was out there. And now I
wow.
get to see them raising their own kids and living a better life. But I stayed in touch with them, and I was always concerned about, man, like you got to be careful about what you do and say out there. And I also helped raise money after I left. I raised money through the song called Ubuntu, which is on my what do you call it, Bandcamp, and other places. But we raised money with that song, and we're able to build them a more adequate housing facility because they were living in like a awful, like broken down shed of some sort. And yeah, just to give them bare necessities. Well, that's all I was trying to do. And like the whole, I mean, it's not only them who needed it. You know, this is just a drop in a bucket, like I say in the song. So many of those people deserve more attention. Um, and that country's history is fucked up, obviously, and it's still an apartheid in a lot of ways. There is a white South Africa and there's a black South Africa. And you just have to travel a little bit and you can see the wild differences in that.
Right.
But that, yeah. So anyway, the director, I don't think the director cared that I was speaking up about this and kind of being the contrarian of this documentary. But his mom is the one who was invested in this company, and she got pissed off. And then like lots of tension between me, her, and the guy who owned this treatment of sorts. And yeah, you know what? I mean, to this day, I've been proven right because I
That's. I'm
yeah.
sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So yeah, I left and they gave up on the documentary. I
So,
acquired all of the hard drives from what was filmed while I was out there in hopes of putting something together myself if I can. I don't know the legalities of that,
you said
but
you
I
were
want
proven
to,
right. Why were you proven right? I'm sorry. Just want to make
because
sure you
this
stayed on that
this
too.
this treatment doesn't work. They were like
Oh, right,
bamboozling
right.
Mm.
bamboozling people several different ways. And no one got cured. In fact, one of the main advocates of this treatment passed away shortly after I had left South Africa of
Wow.
AIDS. Um, and he was boasting about how he was like so new and improved after this treatment. And it's like it's
And
just
what year is this that you're there?
2011, and then I returned in 2015 just
Mm.
to check up on the
Interesting.
people. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. That's an amazing story. That's a crazy triangle of people involved right there that you're saying. Is that a rep like for a bigger company? I don't want to get too far in this
No, no. In fact,
pharmaceutical thing, but is that who's or is it just a privatized company making these
yeah.
machines?
It was at first it was government owned, not by South Africa, by Russia. And then it
Holy
was,
shit!
and
I'm
then
sorry. Sorry.
they some I used to know this all this information by heart, but
Yeah,
um
yeah.
because I researched it like mad because I was scared to be going to South Africa without really knowing what I was getting myself into. It's
Rightfully
not like
so.
me doing it. It's not like doing a tour, like I don't have
Yeah.
handlers out there,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And South Africa's a
I think you
wild
should be
spot.
scared to go to any country that we're not like super, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you should be
yeah.
have some apprehension.
But when I
So,
did go back, I did three shows, in one in Durban, which was the main spot where I first went to, and then Cape Town and Johannesburg. And the Johannesburg show is where I met an MC named Eugen Blackrock, who is one of my favorite MCs. Um, and she's blowing up. But like all this time later, I tried signing her to Strange Famous, and she had other things going on. But she was on the Black Panther soundtrack with Kendrick Lamar. She had a song with
Oh
him.
shit.
Yeah, so I
okay,
was like,
okay.
I'm seeing her blossom and just get like noticed and attention. I'm so happy for her because she's truly ill. South Africa hip hop embodies the spirit of like the mid 90s and late
Hmm.
90s from where I came from. So I immediately identified with that spirit and fell in love with it and with that
Sure.
scene. They're dope, man. I
Like
mean,
more
I
social,
have heard that
like
about the
socially
South
conscious
African.
militant vibe type.
yeah, and
Yeah.
just their approach and their sound. It's like,
Huh.
yeah, and they cipher, it's like it's stuff that
Yeah.
just doesn't exist in America anymore and
Yeah,
hardly anywhere else.
that we all wish still existed. Well, I
Yeah.
wish it still
Yeah.
existed for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
many. I don't know if it's like that right now because I'm talking about it like I was just there. But when, when I was there, it was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Well, I feel it's probably still in that circle because you hear about um I mean all these legendary acts, not just South Africa, but that tour Europe because people still
The
love
love.
them there. They
Yeah, yeah,
love that there. And then when you hear a lot of the legendary old school acts trying to tour here, it doesn't really work anymore
right.
because we're so oversaturated with hip hop music now that it's like I don't know. It's because I like a prime example for it is I was supposed to go on the um the last 9 or 10 shows of the Onyx 25 or 30 year anniversary of Back the Fuck Up, like when they did that tour around the US. So they took that tour overseas. Every show sold out overseas. But in
Hmm.
the US, when they tour with RA, um, they they jumped off their own tour right before I was supposed to jump on it. They jumped off their own tour because it wasn't doing good, you know.
It's tough going for a lot of people, man. I mean, I'm very familiar with that. I'm very familiar with that. I mean, I've toured. I toured almost nonstop from '99 until 2010. Took a 4 year break. I still did shows, but I wouldn't tour. And then 2014 and 2015 were nonstop tours. It was nonstop because I had just taken a 4 year hiatus and made myself incredibly depressed. And um, I just was like, I need to be on the road in order to live my best life. I need to be doing my work. Because if I'm not doing that and I'm not being distracted by actual tasks that are right in front of me, I go into bad places. So, um, and I toured and toured, but I would play any spot. And I'm so low maintenance that it's like I can play anywhere in the world and I don't have great requirements. And I let them know that. I'm like, yo, I need a sound system. I need a mic. And I don't even need a mic. I'll bring my mic. I need a mic stand and to plug my laptop into something and I'll make the show pop.
Right.
But it's tough for other people, especially we're talking groups, man. Like another reason I don't like to tour with a band is your money gets split several ways,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah.
travel expenses are very expensive with a lot of people.
Yeah.
So for me, as a solo cat, I'm like, I'm just gonna go solo. My expenses are very low, and my profits are 100%. Thank you very much. Good night.
I feel it. I feel that.
Real shit.
for sure.
Slug could do the same thing, but he's not that type of cat. He loves employing people. He loves having a staff. He loves just having that community. And like everyone is in lockstep because they do it so
Mm,
often. It's just that was crazy for me to witness from night to night, doing what I've done for as long as I've done it. Because our
mm,
first tour together, it was more like how I do it, and now on this tour, it's just they elevated it all in a way I
interesting.
never want to do. So I'm glad I get to be part of it. I get to benefit from it as an opener because I still have access to all this cool stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not my responsibility.
Yeah, you get to see it
Yeah.
behind the curtain and you're like, no, I think I'll stay over here.
Yeah.
I don't want to perform the surgery. I'll prep it though. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Uh, one other thing I was super curious about, because it actually reminded me of an early experience that probably Chino XL had, RIP, when he signed to Warner Brothers. He was like the only hip hop act at the time. But you signed to a punk label, Epitaph, and you were the only hip hop act on that label. How did that come about?
Yeah. Well, I was the first signed to them. They were licensing stuff from Rhyme Sayers.
Mm,
Right.
But I was the first MC signed to Epitaph, and they were the president of Epitaph. His name's Andy Calkin. Um, they were seeing what we were doing in the indie scene, indie hip hop scene, and seeing how much of how many. I mean, they saw the activity, they saw the fans, they saw us selling crazy amounts of records. Um, and they were like, "This is not so dissimilar to how we started as Epitaph Records with the punk scene." Not the first wave or second wave. It was like the Southern Cali punk scene um, that blew them up. And they were like, we know what to do with this. And they approached me and at that time, a lot of MCs from my era were being approached by record labels like Def Jam and Atlantic, a lot of Atlantic. Um, and they're trying to, I mean, I'll be honest, they're trying to find the next Eminem.
Right.
And they were trying to fashion the next Eminem.
I remember that era. Yeah.
Yeah. So I sensed that, and I wasn't about it, and I didn't even like Eminem. So I'm like, nah, I'm doing great on my own. I don't need this. And Epitaph was like, we see that you're doing very well for yourself. You don't have to change anything about what you do. Just present us a record and we'll put it out. That's it. I was like, you got a deal, Jack.
Mm,
Because I mean, they had a team that I never had before, like a big team.
right.
They were putting my promo up on park benches and stuff like
Right.
that. And the advance was wonderful. And like, I'm like seeing money, like real money. And I'm getting not only that, I'm getting placements in movies, like all the extra stuff that happens when you work with a bigger company, right? That
yeah.
stuff I never see anymore. But when I first started working with Epitaph, that was the shit. Like that was like
Mm,
I am very happy that I got to do this and that they saw me for what I am and didn't try to change me because then I could just keep going doing my thing even without Epitaph, which I did. And no hard feelings, even though like I think they kind of gave up after the first record. I did three with them, and I don't think they put nearly as much attention into me since the honeymoon was over and then the marriage kind of like petered out.
right.
But
Right.
Yeah.
it was good that I did that. I just wish I had moved faster.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah, I feel that. Ram, you got anything?
No, it's so much. I'm just
He's
listening.
just soaking
I'm
it in.
sitting,
He's
yeah, I
soaking it
really
in.
am. I'm really kind of listening to
So
stories. It's interesting
I'm
experience.
I'm super curious because I stem from that era where off the top freestyle battles were still a big thing. Um, do you have a battle that stands out to you from that era, from that time period, that era? Like, or maybe not just stands out, but the hardest battle to you that you've been a part of.
Mm, I mean, the ones that stand out the most, because the Scribble Jam ones were mostly fun for me. It wasn't cutthroat. Although the I think the Brother Ali battle is the most memorable, because he had just beaten Idea, which was
Yeah.
unheard of, and now I'm battling him, and I'm not total. Like I said, I really wasn't on my A game, and literally the only reason I won that battle, well, there was several things at play, but I was able to use something against him that he had told me about just before the battle, and I was able to pull out a albino joke that actually hit, even though most of those are very, played out or whatever, but it just like it stuck in the right way, made the crowd pop. It was, boom, that won the battle.
Right.
It
I
did,
remember the exact line actually.
yeah, well, yeah, okay. But I would say the toughest battle was when I was trying to win the Super Bowl battle in Boston, and I don't think the organizers were trying to hear it, and they made me go against Esoteric, who's now, doing the Czarface stuff. Uh, and he was a big deal in Boston back then because he actually had vinyl out. It was like, you have a vinyl single out in the late 90s, you're legit. And I played his stuff on my radio show, so I knew a lot about him. That was my advantage. So I was
Mm.
able to come to him with actual points about Esoteric and what he does and how he is. And he really didn't have a lot to go off on me except for the stereotypical stuff. And but we went I think 3 rounds and then had to do an like overtime round,
Mhm.
and that I was like gassed out, and I felt like I can't go any more than this. And after that battle, I still had other battles to do, but I like with the spoken word a cappella battle. That's how we ended it, and that's what won it for
Uh,
me. Yeah. So that was to me, winning that meant more than any other battle, really, because
Yeah.
I was an unknown. I was coming from Rhode Island. I was going up against Boston's elite and winning the whole thing and like getting hugs from Mr. Liff and they all like at the and acrobatic. Um, Bless those guys. I love them. Back then it was a little weird and like I wasn't sure if I was cool with them, but we are very cool now. In fact, I just did a song with Mr. Liff on the Old Boy Rhymes album.
Dope.
Yeah, yeah. So that I would say that one, but it's not my best battle. In fact, we were battling over a live band. Again, I don't like live band. I don't. They
That's
they
ironic.
make they keep making the beat go faster and faster. Like
Yeah, yeah, it does throw out the flow a little bit. Yeah, you
Yeah,
kind of have to
man.
keep adjusting,
yeah,
but
you have to have a very tight
yeah,
drummer
yeah,
who
yeah,
works like a
a lot of
TikTok
rehearsal and
machine.
shit. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's funny, man.
Oh man, we're getting close to the wrap up, man. I guess I want to know if you could talk about the inspiration and direction of your new project at all, or is that you keeping that a complete secret?
No, I mean, I still have to figure it out. I have more than enough production for it, more than enough beats that I think are stellar. And I feel bad for all the producers I've made wait for this long because I first started on the album in 2019 with Buck 65, producing it.
Hmm.
And his beats are just so what ended up happening is I moved to Connecticut, I ended up marrying, having a family. I had like everything in my life flipped upside down, and I could not tend to that album, even though I recorded 8 demos for it. And
I mean,
then,
there's pandemic during that time, right after that, right? I mean, there's a lot going on there. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So I think we started maybe in 2018, but whatever the
yeah.
case, right before this Atmosphere tour I just did, I was like, yo, I need something new to sell or like put out there. So I just compiled my final mixtape. I won't do any more sick of mixtapes, but a lot of it is the Buck 65 demos that I was recording for an actual album that just never got completed. And
Hmm.
I hit him up for his blessing on that. I was like, yo, I'm so sorry that like we didn't complete this because it's so dope. But we have more stuff that I'm gonna do that will go on the official album. Um, so I know some of what the official album's going to be, and I did a song with Chuck D that Buck 65 produced that is incredible.
Oh, that's
Uh,
crazy. That's
and
super
I've
dope.
never featured an MC on any of my studio albums.
Huh.
again, like because I'm very territorial. But of course, Chuck D jumps on a song and it's actually a dope
That's crazy.
performance and verse from Chuck D.
Yeah.
That's going on my official album. Um, and I've been teasing that for a few years because we recorded it, I think 3 years ago, maybe even longer than that. And like everyone's like, what the hell happened to that Chuck D song? I'm like, patience, patience. It's gonna happen. Wait.
That's
But yeah,
super
so
dope, man.
I gotta tackle it. I have to a lot of songs to record, figure out how to compile them the way I want. And I don't even have to worry about booking a tour around it because I'm going to do another tour with Atmosphere and Mr. Dibbs next
Oh,
year at the
so,
same
so
time.
yeah,
I think it's not,
Yeah,
it hasn't been like inked into a contract, but I'm pretty sure that's happening next year.
that's what's
So,
up.
that's what's up, man.
yeah.
So as far as Strange Famous goes, like, is that do people submit music to you to put out, or do you guys search for talent to put out?
Yeah, people do submit. A lot of people submit music, and that almost never ends up being someone signed to Strange Famous because we act as a community
Yeah.
and we work with one. And if we know if someone is in our mix that we work well with, that and they want to do an album, that's usually how we bring people in. Um, I mean, there's been rare instances where like No Birds Sing was a group from Minneapolis who presented an album and I loved it and I was like,
That's
yeah,
a
I'll put
that's
this
a
out.
dope group name.
Yeah, and the album is
Super dope.
incredible.
I'm
But
gonna
then they
check that
broke
out.
up soon after we released it, so there's no
Oh,
follow up to that. Another guy I discovered on MySpace, his name's Curtis Plum. Uh, Quirky, weird, and funny, but like in a smart way. Typical, not typical Strange Famous material, so it upset a lot of our fans when we released it. Like, yo, I'm a doper MC than that. I'm like, yeah, but you're missing the bigger picture. You're missing what makes this special. So, as an owner of a label, I get to make those decisions that maybe are, off the wall sometimes, but it fits my understanding of what Strange Famous represents. And rest in peace to Curtis Plum. He passed away about 2 years ago.
Hmm.
Um,
do rest in peace, man. To him. Do you uh, um do you also make those decisions creatively of who to bring in creatively with other people? Like
yeah,
how many other people
I mean,
or
I'm the last decision. Like I'm the
right,
last guy to make the
right.
decision, final decision. But I always run it by Storm Davis, who
Okay.
helps me run Strange Famous Records.
Okay.
He's instrumental in Strange Famous's survival. And like when I picked up Old Boy Rhymes, oh, he's a prime example of someone who hit me up out of the blue and I signed him to Strange Famous. But it is very rare. Anyway, I showed it to some people in our crew. um they'd be like, oh yeah, he's dope, he's dope. We don't know anything about the guy. I mean, that's another thing. I actually vet people. I don't sign knuckleheads to the record label. I don't sign people who I can foresee as being a problem down the line.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
um yeah, and that's that can be hit or miss sometimes. You can't possibly know how someone is going to turn at a certain point. But if they have a criminal record or sexual assault or whatever, it's like
Right,
we
right.
can fuck
I don't
right
mean
off.
I'm sorry,
But
I don't mean to
not,
laugh
yeah.
at that. It's just like, yeah, obviously, right, right.
I
Yeah.
completely agree with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how it goes. It
Well,
is a communal thing, but
It's
I'm
crazy.
still the guy who makes the final decision.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So is there has there been an artist where someone else brought them to you and you were like, I don't know, but you trusted them?
Nah, nope,
No, yeah, yeah.
no. No,
Just curious. Yeah,
so many people get brought my way, and I'm usually they don't
you
unless
have
it's
to like,
totally. It has to blow my mind. It has to
yeah,
blow my
yeah,
mind
yeah,
to take a
yeah.
chance on a new person.
Right,
That's what Old Boy Rhymes did. He blew my mind. He got signed to Strange Famous. And of course, I had to like inquire, like, well, why are you living in Southeast Asia? What's going on with that?
that's right,
How come?
that's
How
right.
come your name? How come I can't find out anything about you online? What's going on with that? So I
Huh,
did. I did vet
Yeah.
him up and down. Yeah.
huh.
That's what's up, man. Well, this has been dope, man. I
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate
appreciate
it.
you being on here, man, talking with us, giving us some stories,
Yeah, it's been good to
concepts,
meet you, man.
topics.
You
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Um, yeah, just real quick, since there'll be an audio of it too as well as the video, just shout out how people can contact you or see your progress, music, all that good stuff, just
Yeah,
drop that.
you can always check us out at strangefamousrecords.com. We are on Bandcamp, so that's a great way to support if you don't want to buy shirts and hats and weird merch items that we come up with. But we've sent out hundreds of thousands of packages to people all over the world since I started this thing in the late 90s. We take care of our customers, so if you got some extra money burning your pocket and there's no tariffs fucking up your life, holler at me there. I'm on all the socials. I run my own accounts. I can't really pay attention to all of them all the time, but I'm on Twitter, my not MySpace anymore, but Facebook and even TikTok. I just joined that. I can't follow it, but I will post my videos from time to time. It's
There it
just a
is.
barrage of information I can't totally gel with, but yeah, all Blue Sky and Threads and Instagram. I got it all on lock, baby.
There we go, man. There we go. Yeah, this has been great, man. It's been the Cyphaden Chat presented by Cyphaden Music, where we inspire even those higher. And remember to never stop chasing your dreams, because you will never know what you are fully capable of. I'm your host, Tayamu Denku. That's the homie Rambunctious. And
Peace,
tonight we
y'all.
had
Peace,
special
everyone.
guest Sage Francis in the building, and we appreciate you, man. And yeah,
I'll
man,
push the
look,
link when you send it to me.
appreciate you, bro.
All right.
Right
Thank you,
on.
y'all. Peace.
All right. Peace.